everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. So we from ASAR, we usually conduct these information sharing sessions where we invite experts to basically talk about air pollution and auxiliary issues. Today, we actually are quite lucky to have Dr. Mohan George, who is our expert speaker. He will basically, as the webinar registration would have indicated, will speak on essentially the process and the advantages of hotspot mapping in order to reduce urban air pollution. Briefly, Dr. Mohan George, in our networks, doesn't quite require a introduction, but for those of you who don't know, he has been associated with the Delhi Pollution Control Committee for over 26 years. And in the last 7 years of that tenure, he was actually the additional director there. He's currently a consultant with the Center for Science and Environment. He consults on clean air and sustainable mobility. He was basically while at DPCC, he was basically responsible and managed the largest monitoring network currently present in our country, which oversaw ambient air monitoring, air quality assessment, along with noise monitoring as well. For those of you who don't know, DPCC is actually an autonomous regulatory body in Delhi, and it's responsible for monitoring, controlling, and mitigating pollution in the Delhi NCR region. So essentially, there couldn't be a better person to tell us, from his learnings and experience of insights on how hotspot monitoring is conducted, because Delhi is one of those cities that has quite a bit of that, and it's actually done quite extensively. And he will also help us understand how it's helped in some way manage the pollution in the city. Over to you, Dr. George.
Good evening, Natasha, for this lengthy introduction. Am I audible? Clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So, on the onset, I want to thank Asar, who gave a platform to me to discuss on this hotspot and air pollution. Yes, Delhi has a tag of most polluted city, but at the same time, it's the most studied city also. I always say it's the live laboratory for the air pollution. You ask anything, we did it. So it started, you can say, in 90s when the primary monitoring, the SPM and all started. So slowly from there, we moved to the different automatic monitoring stations and most modern technology we used. So can you start my presentation, please? So today, we mainly concentrate on the hotspots. And hotspot, how we identify, what is the background, and how we are managing and how it helped the pollution control in a city. Next slide, please. So when you define it, hotspot is nothing, a location where emission for a specific or non-specific source may expose individuals and population and vulnerable groups. where you are getting some excessive loading of pollutants. The location, geographical location, which is very high concentration of any pollutant. Next, please. It is actually, I say, there is a high concentration of pollutant. It is crossing threshold limit. And when we are telling the crossing threshold limit, not for a momentary, it is for consecutive days. When we talk about the northern India, especially Indo-Gangetic Plain, our all hotspots are impacted by the particulate. In very layman language, it's dust. It may be PM10, it may be PM 2.5, or finer particles. But when you discuss the pollutants in the northern India, or for that matter, all over Indian continent, gases is not our problem, except in few industrial areas. And in the summer season, when your sun is very bright, at that time, ozone in summer, especially if you talk about Delhi, in the May or June, in afternoons, you have very high ozone. And why it is, we will discuss later. It's in very general terms, you can say, because it's the greenest city and your solar index is so high, your vehicular density is so high, so you are getting the NOx. So in turn, you are getting the ozone also. Next, please. So when you talk about the pollution hotspot, it's not a new term. It's cutting from the BBC News. In 2004, they marked few location, few country, few cities, and they identify for the industrial hotspots, where mainly the industries is creating more. It includes the Bhopal and dioxin in Japan and Chernobyl, that type of thing. So hotspot is not a new term. Next, please. This is developed by the ProPublica for the US. It's the industrial hotspot once again, and this report compelled US EPA to visit that area because in that area, the cancer number is very high. So it's once again the industrial hotspot. Next, please. In November, we already discussed. US EPA team visited in the Cancer Alley, Mississippi River, near Mississippi River, when ProPublica said they identified that belt as the toxic air pollution hotspot. Next, please. Now comes the question. These hotspot term, when we started using in India, the first time when the hotspot word is used in the pollution terms in India is IPCA report, the then controlling body for Delhi, which is formed by the Supreme Court order, that's Environmental Pollution Coordination Authority, which very generally said the Bhurelal Committee. They submitted a report number 106 to the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court of India, in the MC Mehta case. And there they identified 13 hotspots in Delhi. And since 2019, action taken report is given to the MC Mehta case. Now, NCAP, National Clean Air Program, and Prana portal also mentions hotspot. When you talk about the city action plan or state action plan, they mention their hotspot also. Next, please. When you talk about the hotspot air pollution in India, an airshed, a polluted city on country level, may be marked as a hotspot. That may be, and it may be a reason also, air shed also. Sometime mining belt, commercial activity, industrial activity produce a hotspot. But when you talk about city, every city have its own hotspots. It may be some major intersection. It may be some industrial area. It may be some Jogijapri cluster or a river bed where they are burning something or else. So what I want to say, ki hotspot identification is very essential to control the air pollution. Once you know which is the vulnerable parts where you are producing more concentration of the pollutant, you can better manage your city, or you can better manage the pollution abatement in your city or your country. Next, please. What is the legal? Next. There is, as I said, when this report 106 is submitted to Supreme Court, at the time there is no legal definition for the Indian context. What we did in Delhi at that time, we are monitoring at the 26 locations. And when we did the annual analysis of that data, we find a few locations which is continuously exceeding. Now comes the question, what it's exceeding. So 300 microgram per meter cube of the PM10 on the annual average and 100 in PM 2.5. So what we did at that moment, that total 26 stations, their analysis, and the stations which is exceeding 300 and 100, we defined them as hotspots. But at the time, another school of thought which said 70%, if a station is exceeding 70% occasion, the city average, the ambient air quality standard, then we can tell them it's a hotspot. It means if a station exceeds 255 days, the city average. City average, what I mean by city average here, if you have 26 locations, you are monitoring average of 26 location, whatever is the value, say 115 is the value, and this particular station, if exceeds 70% of the time, it is a hotspot. There are some many other stations also which exceed 100% of time, like ITO or Anand Vihar in Delhi. This traffic helps and it exceeds. Next slide, please. Here, the extreme weather periods also come. When you say the October to November, October 15th to November 15th of the any year in Delhi, it exceeds all value, you get very extraordinary. Why? At that time, it coincides with the onset of winter, and the same time, the smoke which is emitted due to the agriculture residue burning Punjab and other neighboring states fill up the Indo-Gangetic plain. It is not the Delhi versus Punjab or Delhi versus Haryana that is wrongly put up by media. It is the condition all over IZ. So that extreme weather periods also are included in these values. Next, please. Then, because there is no clear-cut definition about these things, so a subgroup was formed, which is developing the comprehensive plan for air quality monitoring network in Delhi and NCR. So they submitted their report in July 22, and they give a definition. Next, please. Here, it is very clearly mentioned, if annual average PM 2.5 concentration at a monitoring station is exceeding the national ambient air quality standard 40 microgram per meter cube by more than 2.5 times, means 100 microgram per meter cube, and the 95 percentile value of daily 24-hour PM 2.5 for a given year is more than twice the corresponding NIQS, it's 120 microgram per meter cube, then this is the hotspot. So now this is the legal definition for Indian air pollution hotspot when you talk about the ambient air, not for the industrial air. It is particularly ambient air. Next, please. One more thing is important here. There are seasonal variations. So for that reason, we take the annual average because these hotspots may vary. In Delhi, when you talk about this 13 hotspot, there may be many more hotspots. But because these stations, 26 location have their monitoring stations, so these 13 location is identified as hotspots. Next, please. When we talk about Delhi, it have the tag of the one of the most polluted city, no reason, no doubt about it. But I differ here. It may not be most polluted. It is most dusty city. If you remove PM10 and PM 2.5, then we are not exceeding in any gases. This is not true only for Delhi. It is true for the total northern. And why I am telling you I am differing, because this most of my dust which is coming, it is natural dust. It's wind-blown dust. In the summer, it is coming from the western region of the country. In the winter, it is not dispersing properly because your mixing height is low. Your geographical location is so. It happens. And when you talk about the urban condition, Delhi, yes, geographical location, high population, and vehicular density. The city which have population 11,000 to 31,000 people per square kilometer is naturally it is going to be emit something. Industrial activities, we have 33 industrial areas in Delhi. Major industries, red category industries, even the yellow is shifted out of Delhi, but it is there. Transboundary transport is another of the pollutant, is another problem. The latest report of the Terry and other source apportionment studies between 2010 to 2022, we have 5 source apportionments. And all the studies shows 40 to 60% of our pollutant is traveled from somewhere. So that's some fact about Delhi. Systematic ambient air monitoring started in 2000. Before that, there is hardly 1 or 2 stations, one ITO, one more station. But then this station came and we started producing data. In 2017, a strong network of 40 real-time monitoring stations was functioning in Delhi. Next, please. And with this number of the stations and data in the public domain, started the period when public started analyzing the data. And that's the result when public and different organizations started analyzing your data, then 13 locations were classified as the hotspots. So first thing for identification of hotspot is your data must be in the public. It must be available to the all. Next, please. One more condition is there in present situation when we talk about hotspot, there must be a CAQMS working continuously. Next, please. This is the initial period SMAC media coverage, 13 hotspot. Next, please. Whereas the AQI or available consultation data in general, PM 2.5, PM 10 is the prominent pollutant, which decide which station is the hotspot or not. And on some hot sunny days, ozone. With this ozone data, there is one more question arises. How much greenery is good? So Delhi is the greenest city, greenest capital of the world, but at the same time, this greenery is creating ozone sinks. Today, it's not our problem, but down the line, after 5 years or 10 years, the ozone also may be a most critical pollutant in the urban area. Next, please. One more thing is come. If you analyze the hotspot in Delhi or hotspot all over the India, which is given as described in the NCAP, what we find, either it is the busy intersection, traffic intersection, industrial area, or nearby construction sites. So a question arises here. Our continuous ambient air monitoring station is located correctly or not, or their wrong placement is giving the hotspots. If Anand Vihar or ITO, which is having the maximum footfall and vehicular passage, is described as a hotspot, technically it's wrong. It is taking the vehicular emission, tailpipe emission. It's observing the tailpipe emission and it's reported as hotspot. So location of the monitoring station is very crucial. We have to check it. Otherwise, if it is wrong, what happens if you go through the 800 something station which continuous and monitoring stations working in India? In most of the cities, if you leave these 4 or 5 metros, 1 or 2 stations are there. And either that station is established at the very clean location or highly polluted. If by chance it's a highly polluted location, it is the hotspot. But it doesn't mean that Delhi have only 12 hotspots, there may be many. Or if this station is moved out from that place a few meters, it may not be hotspot because a major road is passing through it. So road resuspension dust and tailpipe emission making hotspot. Next, please. So now comes the question, how to identify? You have to check the data. Your continuous ambient air monitoring station, the available historical data. Just putting a station and after a few months, if you are telling hotspot, it's not hotspot. And I always say, what is the public perception? Generally, public perception and scientific data generally don't coincide. If public says, सर ये polluted है, अरे भाई क्यों polluted है, उसका जवाब उनके पास नहीं होता है. That's my feeling. So you need historical data, you need long time series data analysis, and the same time you have to collect the complaint. After the NCAP, every city, every non-attainment city at least have the complaint, some public grievance redressal system. You have to take the data and spread it out geographically, and you have to see where from actually repeated complaints are coming. On the basis, you can identify few hotspots. Next, please. That same thing, right? The available data must be spread on the digital map. Data generated for different type of systems. It's not necessary your reference grade system is only you take data from the reference grade system. You can take from any system, even the low cost sensor. You co-locate them and justify your data. You take data from them. So at least you have a trend at certain location. The Y location is behaving like this. The value may change, no doubt. You can find out an algorithm and you can see the actual value. But whatsoever data is available, use that. Next, please. Can you see next slide? Data analysis. This also accidents next management. This limitation we are talking. Yes, just okay. Limitation we are talking. The location of your CAQMS, where it is situated, your the local conditions, and the optimum number of the monitoring station at that city is some important things which decides your data quality. And the same way, it is limitation for the hotspot identification also. Next, please. Now comes the question, who manages the hotspot? When you say State Pollution Control Board, they say I am responsible only for the industrial area because I am mandated for the industrial monitoring only. As soon as you say ULBs, they will say I am not equipped. PWD, they say I am construction agency. So what I think and what's our experience in Delhi, State Pollution Control Board, USBs, landowning agency, and any construction agency, they must come together and they have to manage the hotspot. And if you and the other help what you require from the police and revenue, because if police is not helping, you can't do anything in the hotspot because it's not industrial area. So State Board have no full power on it. Of course, they have the different section of AIR Act where they can direct the ULBs or any other agencies, but it's better if this group, State Board, ULBs, construction agencies, and landowning agency, with the help of police and revenue works, your hotspots can be managed easily. Next, please. What is required? If you have emission inventory of your city, you can easily identify your hotspot. You can identify at which location higher concentration of the industry is there, or what sources are there, where from this pollution is coming, you know. And once you identify your hotspot, you must know it is situated in the residential area, commercial area, or industrial area. Next, please. How these agencies to take. Once you have the data, these are the main, just you can say, with the what about, I gone through the source apportionment study of different cities, and what's the in general identified: wind-blown dust, road resuspension dust, illegal dumping of C&D, accumulation of and removal of C&D. These things are the most major contributors. So wherever you are identifying a hotspot, you have to do the ground survey, which inform you about the vulnerable things, where from you are getting this dust. Next, please. You have to check road network there. And you have to check if there is unpaved road stretch, dusty road stretch, potholes are there, vulnerability of the congestion is there. If there is daily there is a jam near air quality monitoring station, that will show higher values and your average will increase. The same way, industries in the industrial area is controlled by some or other agency. It may be state board, it may be ULB, or it may be industries. But the industries which is working in the unorganized sector without any monitoring is the major issue. When we talk about Delhi, if about 30,000 industries in the 33 industrial areas, out of that about 80,000 industries there. State Pollution Control Board say, it's not my baby. Industry department say, we don't have the pollution control powers with us. So these industries is covered by the master plan of the city, and the concerned agency must check why, first of all, the industry is operating in the residential. If it is working in residential area, it will create problem because you are not controlled by anything. You are burning any fuel. You don't have any pollution control equipment, and you convert that area into hotspot. The vehicles are coming for taking finished goods or to putting the raw material. So that type of problems come. So if at all the industries are there, they are working in organized area or unorganized area. If they are working on the unorganized area, are they doing something to control the pollution? Probably air polluting or not, and especially fuel used. Are they using the only approved fuel? That's important. Next, please. Next is wind-blown dust. You have to identify any open bald patches near the hotspot. Road shoulders are greened or not. Are they paved? If they paved, if it's cleaned or not. How dust collected after mechanical road sweeping? Nowadays, everyone say, all non-attainment cities say, sir, we have a few dozen of the mechanical sweeper. If you see the amount allocated in the under NCAP, 80% of that amount is spent on the mechanical sweepers or sprinkling systems. And the unfortunate part, in our condition, the mechanical sweeper cleans only near median. Because other side you use for the parking. Your vehicle is parked. So mechanical sweeper can't go there. And other thing, of course, this mechanical sweeper is observed and audited by their length moved, and it's GPS recorded. But who record the brush is working on the road or not? It's costly. So generally what happens, their brush is up, the vehicle is moving on the slow speed, and that emission emitted by the vehicle also coming into my environment. So that we have to check. Next problem is near hotspot. Why it happens? The municipal solid waste. The segregation is not proper. It is dumped nearby in that area hotspot, and after a few days, someone will burn. The city like Delhi, which is very green, it have its own unique problem because the ULBs, the horticulture department, prune the plants and they collect this pruning into some park. And if you observe, after 2 days, nothing is there. Where it is gone? Of course, Ujjwala and so many other schemes are there. They say the cylinder is given, but the whatsoever this low-income group is getting the free of cost, they will use it. For why to blame them? Anyone who is getting the free of cost or lesser cost, they will use that. So they burn it. And then we say, sir, we don't know where from in our source apportionment, biomass contribution is coming. Because these horticulture waste and agriculture residues burn. So it is giving the trace of the biomass. Next, please. Kezia, next slide, please. So approved fuel must be notified and violation must be observed. I'm not telling you go to every jhuggi jhopdi and check what they are doing. Let them burn, they cook on something. Let them eat something. Unless we can provide another thing to them. Maybe solar or maybe another thing. But if industry is violating, please complain. Metallurgical monitoring, met data is necessary for any hotspot management and hotspot identification. At least wind speed, wind direction, and solar index is the basic. Without that, we don't know from where the pollution is coming and where it is going. For any modeling purpose, this data is required. Next, please. When you identify the hotspot, you have to do the hyperlocal survey. On the ground, you have to check what it is and where from emission is coming. I remember one of my station is giving very high values in the evenings, especially in the winter. No reason. Then we sent the person in the ground and we see one omelette pupil, one on the cart, one person is making omelette, and that kerosene smoke is creating all the problem. So ground truthing of your data is must. Someone must visit that area and they have to check it. Next, please. I think I'm exceeding my time limit. Use the learnings from the LAQM and LCS. Local air quality management by low-cost sensors also use them. Increase officials' understanding air pollution in the field. They must visit and they get the data. Next, please. That's different steps which is initiated in Delhi. Next, please. Strengthen the monitoring. Once you get the data, it is in the public domain, which resulted in the further action, which is identified the hotspot and the vulnerable places. Next, please. This is the identified area and how they try to manage it. We will discuss in next slide, please. Vehicular pollution is the major problem in Delhi. So augmentation of the public transport with it and electrical vehicles is promoted. And in Delhi, all the commercial fleet working either on electric or on CNG. Next, please. Next, please. That's a different things which is given. You have the presentation. You can even circulate it. Next, please. Biomass stubble burning is checked. Control of on the open burning. Open burning is not allowed. It is fine. If you are making a phone call to fire service or municipality, they will take immediate action. Municipal solid waste burning must be controlled. They controlled it. Waste to energy plant is working, and legacy waste remediation. These things is done for the biomass, reducing the biomass burning. Next, please. Next, please. Next. Construction and demolition. That's a major problem. And I think a few of the hotspot is identified due to this only. Some construction is going on. RNC plants is nearby. And it is emitting the dust. No anti-smoke guns or sprinkling is done properly. So this type of things. Now Delhi have 3 CND waste processing plants. CND waste is collected and the process there. Inventorization is done. Illegal dumping impact. Next, please. This is smoke gun they are using. Next, please. Next, please. road resuspension is a major issue. And the problem is the dust is toxic also. It have the galvanized rubber in it. It have the tar particle and very fine particles. Other than the tailpipe emission, so many other things also there, which is going inhalable size and it will go in your lungs. It will create problem. So water sprinklers used, mechanical road sweeping is used, but mechanical road sweeping with the rider, if you are not properly managing it, how to dump, if there is no SOPs there, it's useless. Hotspot, generally what they do, they put the smoke guns and water sprinkling they use, dust suppressant they use to control it. Next, please. Next. Smoke tower is, I think now it is not required to discuss because it is a failed experiment. In ambient thing, it will not control. I want to discuss this slide also. Here, what we did is a hotspot. Generally, when you say hotspot, so the question comes, which is the area surrounding is in the hotspot. From the CAQMS, 2 kilometer radius is taken is the hotspot for that particular CAQMS. On-ground inspection, joint team with the local staff of the ULB, revenue, as I said initially, revenue, police, and state pollution control board. They have to visit and they have to identify the problem. As we discussed, road, pothole, dusty area, bald patches. That's they have to identify. Short-term action plan, remove the malba from the roads, remove the garbage from the roads, repair the road, identification and removal of traffic congestion spots. If it is, you have to put a traffic policeman there to manage it. Mechanical sweeping of the road, water sprinkling. Water sprinkling is what I mean, the actual droplet size water sprinkling, not you put the bathroom showers and wet the area. No. So in case of Delhi, agencies involved is MCD, PWD, DPCC, DSIDC, DDA, but basically these are the agencies. Next, please. Switch over to cleaner fuel if industry is nearby. Next, please. That's Delhi's story. Next, please. Greening is necessary, but you have to optimize it. Otherwise, ozone problem is waiting. Next, please. Any redressal, grievance redressal is required. For that, you have to develop a software. Next, please. Thank you. I hope questions will be there.
Thank you, Dr. George. We actually yeah we did let you speak because we started late as well, but you've basically covered quite a few of the questions that were posed already. But just to summarize some of the things that you've pointed out, one is basically you're saying very clearly that we don't need a continuous monitoring station to identify hotspots. Any kind of data collation with any kind of device supports the identification of a hotspot. The other extremely important point I think you've made is that ground truthing obviously is something that is needed because certain things may be indicative through data, but the only way to actually make sure that your data is telling a story is basically going down to the ground and checking, and that I assume is where citizen involvement, civil society involvement can be quite immense. The other point that you've made is basically to say that, all, I mean, the mapping of hotspots can't be standalone, and it's obviously not of no use if there's no action taken thereafter. And science continues to back the action as well, and based on sciences, how one needs to actually make a plan that is actually mitigative um, to the problem that has been identified, yeah, through hotspot mapping. Um, there are some very technical questions that actually we received from some of the participants well in advance. So if you are okay with it, we'll actually send you a follow-up email if that's okay, or if we can maybe even just have a quick chat with you to collate some of those answers.
Yes,
Um,
what I can answer, of course, I will try.
sure, thank you.
I
Uh,
think one person asked, I think,
yes,
ozone
yeah,
and green.
yes, if you could cover that.
Yeah, Delhi is one of the greenest capital, and we have the green patch. So when you analyze the data of these 40 stations which is working in Delhi, the ozone green area is too high. And it's well-known fact there's uh, ozone, the green area work as ozone sink. And the summer, when sun is bright, solar index is high. When NO2 is there, ozone is formed. So it's very normal. So what I wanted to say, we say green, 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 but we have to optimize somewhere where the ozone is not exceeding and reaching that levels which started harming us. But in Indian conditions, if we leave the green patches, in general, we need more green. So greenery, and we have the paper published. If someone want, I can share the paper.
So just clarifying, you're obviously referring to ground level ozone, right? That is,
Yeah,
and
yeah, ground level, not those.
so
Yes.
the mixing of the ozone with VOCs is where the problem arises. That's yeah. Okay.
Yes.
The since we don't quite have too much time left, I actually did want to ask, um, if you could give us maybe some like one maybe example of where a hotspot mapping sort of process has actually influenced policy. That's one question. If you could address that in some way, and the other is if you can sort of go back, especially in the dearth of all the experience you've had, if you can actually describe some of the citizen involvement that you have maybe encountered through all the work, which has actually resulted in some sort of impact on ground. If these are the two questions you can maybe address, it's a little bit holistic, but if it's possible.
Yeah, hotspot identification policy change. I seen this at all 13 location of Delhi. Delhi is, but when you talk about Delhi, Delhi is different story because Honorable Supreme Court to NGT, everyone is here. Once you media report there is 13 NGT, everyone start taking your asking for your action reports. But at least that shows if you identify these things and this data is in the public domain, people will ask and it will impact policies some or make pressure on the politicians and they start working. But for that, data is necessary. I think in 2010, when we started give this data in public domain, then only in the school kids, they started to talk about the PM10 and PM2.5. Nowadays, go to any school in Delhi. You ask what is PM10, PM2.5, they answer it. So it make impact. And slowly it make impact on the policies. And second thing you asked, public participation.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So in yes, in last few years, when the data is in public domain, so many places. And this green app is working. At the time we get the complaints, and public pressure is there. We reached to that stage in 2021 and 22 when after receiving the complaint online, the teams are reaching there within 1 hour or so. So it happens.
So complaint redressal systems, for sure, that's actually one of the pieces of work that most of us are also quite engaged on. So, to make them robust and actually get citizens to use them far more seems to be a very good strategy. Also, just shifting focus a little bit, if you can, are there other cities that are going down the, I mean, Delhi, like you said, sticks out because it has such a robust air quality monitoring system. It has all this mapping done. Are there other cities that are following its example? Is there?
Still, I think public participation is less, and data is not in the public domain. That's a two thing is the limitation. Still, people are not opening up. Look, air pollution cannot be controlled if you leave it simply on the government. Until unless every individual owns it, it's my problem, then only things will. If you can't help, you start question why it is happening. If today dust is very high, at least we must know कि why. कोई डस्ट फ्लोम आया है, इन्वर्शन हुआ है क्या, इन्वर्शन हुआ है क्या, मेटलॉजिकल कंडीशंस inducing it or not. If you are asking this type of question, things will slowly.
Thank you so much, Dr. George. We've come to the end of the session. Like I said, we do have a bunch of questions that were sent to us by some of our network members. So we will maybe have to, we would love to pick your brains on to get some of those questions.
You forward it to me.
Yes, we will forward them to you, and we'll maybe collate all the answers, include the presentation and share it with the participants. Kedar has another question. What will it take to
Please.
Well, this is a question I think across all cities. Uh, Dr. George, would you like to take that? The last.
You have to contact the Bombay, Maharashtra Pollution Control Board.
So, but I think
Now I am also out of that system. I am also in the common citizen like you, not a pollution control officer. But data is in the public domain.
So, closing remark, I guess, would definitely be that it's not only the government, and you rightly said if it's left to the government to do, it's probably not going to get resolved. We all do need to play our part, and citizens definitely need to continuously demand for clean air because it's a very basic right. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. George, for your time as well as yeah, your insights. Thank you so much.